What's up, Cardfighters? Chris here from Vanguard Central, and it's finally here. We have the updated Yasuie Deck Profile, about a month late for the tech booster, but we finally got everything together. I finally got settled, and Deck Profile's coming out. It's a really fun deck using Shadow Stitch to make your opponent think that you want to hit this attack. Maybe you don't want to hit it, you want to get those resources for later. It's really fun, so definitely go check it out. Stay tuned for the rest of the deck profile.
Stand up, Vanguard!
Alright, so our starter is going to be Onifundo. We're running two of him, so you're able to copy him, get that bad boy out there, and add some cards into your hand immediately on that first stride. I did play a little bit with the new guy, Fugen, and some of the other starters, but I found that Onifundo was definitely the best starter still. The other starters don't quite let you build up some advantage and get so your defense is up off that first stride, and you're also going to be able to call out some units and apply some pressure at the same time. So Onifundo, definitely still the number one starter in my opinion. Alright, we'll just go ahead and look at the strides first. So you have one Blizza and one Seabreeze. Blizza's in here not only as a win condition, but also as a first stride. Sometimes you might want him as a first stride to set up that GB2 for Yasuie, so that the units you call from Onifundo can stay on the field. So that's actually a really neat combo if your hand is not that great, you really need to keep units on the field, or you just kind of want to build up some defense for the coming turns. And Seabreeze obviously is the help against that grade 2 game, just in case you need it. Next we have two Onibi Raiders, or Onibi Bladers. So he is definitely one of the MVPs, one of the best strides since Murakumo got him, because he lets you place cards from your hand onto Vanguard Circle before Yasuie's stride effect happens. So even if you have nothing on the board, you can still use him to grab units and copy them. And then we have one Kagemijishi. So he's really good because you're going to be able to give whatever units has called plus 2,000 each, and they can attack from the back row. So if you already have field, this is a good way to get a lot of extra attacks in, and he has some neat combos with the rest of the cards in the deck. We have one Shibaraku Buster, the new GR. I don't actually use him that much. I find that it's a lot of times you might be better off using your combo plays rather than getting off a simple +1, I believe, by copying a grade 3. But he's still really good. If your hand is not that great, he can definitely help filter some cards out for you, get the pieces that you need, and really get going. So that one has been very useful. We just have two Yasuie Tenma. I'm not playing the 4 because I found that it's not quite as useful. Yasuie Tenma can be a really good tool to bait your opponents into letting attacks hit. So sometimes you might even want to use him when your opponent's at 3 damage, just so you can push them up to 4 and hit them with some other attacks. Or if they're at 5, obviously Yasuie Tenma is really good. But if they're at 5, you rarely have counterblast to use two Yasuie Tenmas. So I think just having the 2 is perfect. Lastly, we got 4 Homura Raiders. This is going to be the main boss for the deck. So what I was talking about earlier, if they're at 3, you might want to use Yasuie Tenma to bait them into going to higher damage, so they're going to be forced to block all your Homura Raiders. And Homura Raider is just a really good card. It's not that hard to get off these days. And with all the unflipping the deck has to offer, the counterblast cost is pretty minimal. For G Guardians, we're just going to have one Scry to help us guard some bigger attacks, one Dismal that can help us defend any units that they might be trying to kill or lock during the battle phase to keep them around for Yasuie's skill next turn, and 2 of the previous Murakumo G Guardian. I find the new one's not that good because you're going to lose that unit. This guy's going to get that unit, keep it on the field, and then the card you call is going back to the deck as well. With the new one, you're going to not only lose that unit, but you're going to lose the copy of it from the deck. So I kind of like this guy a little bit better, even though he can only use effects from cards that are grade 1 or higher. So that's it for the stride zone. Let's check out the grade 3s. Actually, we'll go for the triggers first. So for the triggers, we're running 4 Cat Devils, and then so 2 Masamuras, and then one of this guy. This guy really should be a Masamura, but they had 3 in stock when I checked the website, and then I got into the store on Saturday, and then some guy had bought 1 of them, so I'm stuck with this guy. But this should really be 3 Masamuras, and the reason why it's 3 Masamuras and 4 Cat Devils and not the other way around is because of that like worst case scenario. You might need to go into Shibaraku Buster but only have 1 soul. Cat Devil is going to be able to give you that soul during the main phase, so that's going to be really useful there. Whereas Masamura is really important for our Homura Raider plays, getting him up to 31 restanding. That's really, really strong. But you don't always need him. Cat Devil is going to be it's going to be a better fallback than Masamura is, in my opinion. So I wanted the 4 just in case we need to use him to activate Shibaraku Buster. So that's going to be 7 crits. And then we have 2 hidden scrolls. This is going to help us activate Homura Raider with more consistency. Maybe use Kagamijishi to get some more attacks off. Whatever he needs to do, this guy's really good. But I didn't want to flood myself with too many of these guys because they're not that useful if you have multiple of them. So just the 2 has been working out really solidly. And then we have 3 more stands for a total of 7 crits and 5 stands. And that's going to be Drenched Serpent. So she's really, really good. She's going to add that extra pressure for your opponent to take a really small hit that isn't really worth it for them. Because if they guard it, then you're going to get an Unflip 1, Soul Charge 1. So that Soul Charge is going to be really useful for helping cards like Yashibarashi, Shibaraku Buster on a lot of Soul Blast effects. The Unflip's going to help you do all your seals even more, and you give another unit plus 4,000, so it's going to make one of the other attacks even harder for them to guard. So a lot of incentive for them to block this card, but if it goes off, to let them take this hit, but if they don't, you get a lot of bonuses out of it. So this is a really good card to kind of get a feel for what your opponent wants to do. Alright, and then we have 4 heals, obviously to activate our G Guardians and stay alive a bit longer. So just to talk about a little bit about the deck too, I feel like Shadow Stitch is a really cool ability, but a lot of times it's more of like a probing for your opponent, trying to figure out how they are going to react to what you're doing, so you can set up a really good turn later. So for our grade 3s, we got Yasuie. Obviously, his GB2 is amazing, lets us keep units on the field that we might want to use for next turn, and obviously copies 3, makes Homura Raider super easy if you already have a unit on the field, and it's just really great. Can't say enough about him. And then there's all that Yasuie name effects like Masamura, so that you can make your Homura Raider the 31. So for our backup grade 3, we went for I want to say Onikawa, but it's Oniwaka. I found he was really cool because if he misses, you get a counterblast 1 and give 2 units plus 3,000. So that's going to be really good because you could give 1 column plus 6,000, or if you have multiple attackers, you could give them each plus 3,000. You can make some pretty nice numbers if he misses. So, kind of probing, well, does my opponent want to take this hit or risk a stronger attack later? So that's really good. He can also be a really good target for Shibaraku Buster because they're probably going to want to guard that extra drive checks, but then you're going to get some bonuses on the next attacks and wipe them out. Alright, for our grade 2s, we're running our Friendly Amber clone Runestar. He has been really great. He was really great in the version before because he gets the copies back to hand. You're going to build hand size, and he's also really good on Kagamijishi. So if you have not that great of a hand, you really only have this guy and 1 booster maybe, you can go ahead and you can use Runestar. You can attack one side, call it over, maybe you call a trigger, but that one you called with this effect is going to get that plus 2,000. So that's going to be a 16,000 column still. And then you call the third one, it's going to be 11,000, and attack from the back row. So you'll still be able to get off 4 attacks with just Runestar and 2 boosters. And then at the end of the turn, you'll get 2 of those Runestars back to hand. So it's a really good and a really strong opening play if you need to go for it. And he's just pretty solid, just building up hand getting those extra attacks in. And then we got 4 Yashabayashi. He is amazing. He attacks from the back row if you have Yasuie Vanguard, so that opens up 3 possible attacking spots for Tenma. So really, really good, dangerous if your opponent's at 5. And then he has a sweet Soul Blast ability that gives him a Shadow Stitch. So not only does that Soul Blast make him 11 by himself, he also gets a Shadow Stitch, which if he doesn't hit, you're gonna get to unflip 1 and give another unit plus 2,000. So you're just gonna kind of combo in. If that doesn't hit, another unit's getting bigger. You're gonna get an unflip, and the combos are just gonna keep going. So again, you kind of want to judge what is my opponent trying to do. Use their Shadow Stitches early to try to bait them into taking attacks and putting them into bad situation. And if not, that's okay, because then you'll have more resources to push them later as well. So then the last grade 2 we have is for Dokube, just a simple 12k attacker. You'd be surprised how useful this is in this deck. When you need it for Yasuie Tenma, he's always going to be able to hit. Unlike Yashabayashi, he's going to need Soul. If you don't have any Soul, he's not that great on Tenma. But this guy's always going to be good on Tenma. He's always going to be able to provide some pressure on your opponent that way. And he also makes numbers. He's going to hit 16 with a lot of our ability triggers, like the stand. That's a 10k block for them. Like the crit for Masamura. I always get it confused. But that's going to make a 16 too. So you'll hit some nice numbers with the triggers and always be active for Tenma turns. And then lastly, we have the grade 1s. We have 4 Onibayashi. This guy is the reason we are running Yasui over any other Vanguard. Because if you have a Shadow Stitch or Yasui named Vanguard, if any of your attacks misses, he gets an ability that if any of your attack hits any unit for either of these effects, you can put him into the soul. Is it any unit for this? Yeah, any unit for either effects. If any of your attacks doesn't hit, he gets a red text ability. If any of the units hit, you can put him into the soul, unflip 1 damage, and draw a card. So not only are you filling soul for Shibaraku Busters or Yashabayashis, you are unflipping a damage you use possibly to call this guy out, maybe for Rune Stars, and you get to draw a card to replace him. It's insane. So he is definitely the MVP of the deck, and gives you a huge amount of advantage. And it's super great calling him off of Onifundo, so he's going to go back at the end of the turn, but maybe you set it up so that your opponent needs to take 1 attack. They don't want to use up all their guard early, so they're going to guard a weak attack. These guys affect actives. They're going to take your Vanguard, and this one that you called off of Onifundo, he's going to go into the soul instead of going back to your deck, and you get even more advantage that way. It's crazy. So the next grade 3, the other grade 1s are pretty self-explanatory. We got 4 Stride Fodders, help us get on Yasui, help us stride, as it is a really stride-heavy deck. And then 4 Perfect Guards, the unflipping Perfect Guards, to keep our counterblast-heavy options like Homura Raider open. Alright guys, thanks for watching. I hope you liked this updated Yasuie deck profile with all the Shadow Stitch support. It's really awesome, it's really fun to play, kind of poking in, trying to figure out what your opponent wants to do, what they want to take, putting them in a bad situation, and setting up for those nasty plays with Homura Raider. Let us know what you think of the deck in the comments below, if you like the choices we made, if you think there's other things that we could have done. Again, leave a comment, give us a thumbs up, it helps out a ton. Hit that subscribe button to keep getting more sweet videos. And that's about it. Vanguard Central, out.